Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Lily Allen Duenas. Together we'll talk about the world of yoga and we'll talk to people from around the world. Before diving into the episode, I wanted to invite you to head on over to my website, wildyogatribe.com. I would really love for you to give it a look as I just launched a new website and I would love to hear what you think of it. Feel free to reach out on social media wherever makes the most sense for you. Also, if you're a longtime listener, I wanted to say thank you for your continued support. And if you feel called, I'd be honored if you left a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you tune into the show. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. Namaste, family, and welcome back to the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Gergentia Shoombe onto the show today. She's a yoga teacher from Namibia, and she has been having just the most incredible journey, and I'm so excited to dive into it with her. She's been teaching yoga for many years and came to it actually after a serious car crash and doctors telling her she'll never even walk again. So she beat the odds through yoga and Eastern healing techniques like Reiki and Qi Gong. And she's taught yoga in both Namibia and South Africa. So I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about today. So thank you so much, Gergentia, for being here on the show with me today.
Thank you, Lily, for having me.
So let's dive in. Can you tell our listeners more about how yoga first came into your life?
I feel like yoga called me to it because I came to find it while I was in the process of healing from the car crash. That was after the doctor said you never walk properly again. Even if you walk, you will never run or jump. I was desperate for healing, and I found this group in the park that practiced Qi Gong meditation. So I went simply to just get my mind to accept where I was. And with Qi Gong, the slow movement really helped me get some of the movement in my spine back because I was also suffering from like a lot of lower back pain because I have lower back scoliosis as a result of the car accident also. So it was after this group in the park that the rest of the journey just opened up. And a friend of mine was in Swaziland and just asked me to come there while she was going to deliver a baby in SA. And I was a yes, because I'm off work and have nothing to do really. And she made sure that I actually could still continue with my yoga and my meditation. So she hooked me up with this place called Serendipity that had like a lot of yoga teachers there and Reiki masters. And it was at this place in Swaziland that I've met a monk, and he introduced me to Bhakti yoga and meditation. And that journey took about 8 years before I met Africa Yoga Project. So in Bhakti Yoga meditation, I got so strong in my meditation and understanding myself from the conscious level. And then I changed my whole life and studied holistic healing therapies. And so when I was finishing with my course, I was doing an internship, and it was like late day, last minute day, Africa Yoga Project popped up on my screen. And then I applied, I sent it, I didn't even think anything of it. And then 2 weeks later, they call me and they're like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." We did an interview online. I got full sponsorship. I went there and I found myself doing asanas, which wasn't even what I expected, because for me, yoga was simply just meditation. I didn't think anything with the asanas because I didn't even think my body can do things that people do in the yoga class. So it was the last place I will go to. That's simply like how, in a nutshell, the rest is just history.
Wow, that's a big nutshell, though. That's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a lot happened in one. Yeah, like a lot happened in just that 1 year. Mm.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you'd never done yoga asanas before the car crash. Is that
No,
correct?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so then after the crash, you came to meditation and Reiki and Qi Gong, especially in Swaziland with this monk. Could you tell us
Mhm.
more about the monk? I just feel like you really got my interest peaked up when you mentioned.
The monk was offering Bhakti Yoga meditation or Maha Mantra chanting. And he didn't have a big follower, but he was originally from Swaziland. And he was doing this work as solo work in Swaziland. And that evening, I knew there was yoga, and I had an Uber take me there because it was raining crazy. And I walked into this room, and there was this guy, black guy in the orange robes. I was more fascinated by the fact that he's African, and I never related monks to like blacks. I just thought Asians, monks, that's all I could relate to from the movies. So I met him there, and we say hello. He explained what we are doing here, showed me the mala beads, showed me some books like the Bhagavad Gitas and the Science of Self-Realization. And the mantra was a banner right on front of him. And he said, this is what we're going to chant. And he went through it, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I just closed my eyes and chanted away. Like I've been doing this all my life. It was from just like that day with the monk. I was supposed to stay in Swaziland for 3 weeks. I ended up studying under him for 6 months. So what was meant to be 3 weeks ended up being 6 months. And what was 6 months, he invited me to go to a festival, a Hare Krishna festival in Durban. It's one of the biggest festivals they host in South Africa. And I went there and I met the temple, the deities, the rest of Krishna people, devotees. And I was with the Hare Krishnas for a good 8 years. I went and I stayed in the temple for 2 years while I was studying holistic healing therapies in Cape Town and even got initiated. That's where my name, Imani, Devi Dasi, come from. It's my initiated name from the Hare Krishna temple.
Wow, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing that you got to stay in the temple as well for 2 years while you were doing the holistic healing training. That must have been quite an
Yeah.
experience.
It
Wow.
was. It was deep, soul searching. It wasn't easy, but I had the right foundation and environment for growth.
Yeah, self growth isn't easy. It's hard
No,
work. It
it is.
really is. And I admire you a lot and I have a lot of respect for you and for people who are willing to just dig in and just say, I want to heal. I want
Yeah.
to heal. And especially after your car crash and being told, no, you're never going to walk. You had a lot of people and maybe kind of energy around you of people saying you can't. Gosh, it's so awesome that you just said, I can. And then you found people who supported you and said, yes,
Yeah.
you can. I'm sure the monk, I'm
Yes.
sure your community just backed you up in that. Am I right?
Yeah. Because from the moment the doctors were telling me this, everything inside of me was discerning. I was just like, no, how can you say that? It's just a broken leg. But what I also found out later, actually, I had the 2 weeks there, lower back paralysis, but my mother told the doctor, don't tell her. My mom is also a nurse, she's a midwife, so she kind of just waited it out and would just sit at the end of the bed with a pen and poke in my left foot. And then one day I was just like, Mama, you are irritating me. So she was a big help for me. She'd be like, use anything in your power to help yourself, even though you are bedridden. So even when after the operation and I had the metals in my leg installed, when I have to go for physio, what is meant to be like an hour, I will be there for 4 hours. So the first thing was, for instance, just learning to sit on this baby chair. And I would just sit on that chair for 2 hours and just cry. I won't look at anybody. I'll just get into a child's pose kind of and just cry from the deep in my bones. And I remember even like when I have to move from the chair to like learning to stand and hold myself to walk, I stood for I don't know how many weeks just looking at this space in front of me and asking myself, how do people walk? How do I walk? So the fact that I couldn't remember, my brain was failing me, my memory was also gone, I was ready to begin. I was ready to just be new like a child. And one day I remember I took that step, and that step never stopped.
I love that explanation of you had to be a child, because I know that is a lot in bhakti yoga and in the path of devotion, of just coming and approaching it from this open beginner's mind, from having that sense of just surrender or of wonder or of discovery. And so for you to just right before diving into a spiritual path, go through such a transformation, such an act of going back to the beginning. It just seems like wow, like a gift in a way, the silver lining of it, a gift, right?
Yeah. So there was so much strength inside of me that was like wanting to come out. I accepted that I was at the junction, like this accident. When I was in a car crash, I had that out-of-body experience and into the light. And there I was told, you are going back. And I was like, no, I don't want to go back. What am I going to do there? No, you have to go back because your job is not done. So I tried to put up a fight like, hey, look, I have a broken leg. I have this. Yeah, can break your leg, but they can't break your spirit. Can't take your life. Before even the conversation could like go finish, I was back in the body and they were pulling me out of the car. So it was actually that pulling out that pain, that screaming, that it's what took me in the coma after that. When I came back, I had this background and I have just the memory from there. Like I am here to do what I need to do and it's not done. But I also remember having a kind of contract or an agreement that if I go back, you're going to have to make sure everything open up and align for me. I don't want to go back and struggle. So a few years, I just saying like I'm a child of the universe. Everything is opening up for me. Da, 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 da. So that I came back with an inner mantra that will irritate people around me. And that's how everything came to me, my studies. I didn't have to spend a penny going to Swaziland to meet the monk, air flight ticket, accommodation, food. For the next 6 years into the temple, everything was taken care of. All the way into Africa Yoga Project, getting the scholarship and finally putting it all together. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what it is. It was all given as a gift. I promise you, really, I didn't have to work for it.
That is what happens when there's flow. When you just like surrender, let go, and fall into alignment with your life's calling and life's path. It's like that manifestation. Things just, the universe meets you and supports you.
Yeah. It looks like it's falling apart, but actually it's coming together in the spiritual world. Yeah.
Yes. Falling apart is really coming together.
Yeah. That's how just allow it to fall apart. Don't hold it back.
We'll admit that it's uncomfortable. We'll admit it's scary. We'll admit
it's painful. Yeah. There's a lot of crying. But
it'd be nice if it didn't have to be so painful. So why don't we talk about Gergentia Africa Yoga Project a little bit more? I'd love to learn about that experience and doing the training with them and actually how just learning asanas went with you and your healing process as well.
That was one place I wanted to run from. I know anybody from the yoga teachers training 2016 or 15 would tell you, you're a hard student. So when I attract these students in my class, I get them totally because I came from that place. I couldn't even sit, number one, like in a chair pose. I couldn't do a chair. So what happened, I get this scholarship and they first sent you all these questions of inner inquiry. So the shadow work was starting. Even though I had a lot of trauma, I didn't know how deep my traumas were until Africa Yoga Project. It's like the best doctors, psychologists were all in this power yoga teachers training. I remember like the voices of Moses Banja. He would come to me and say, Gergentia, the same way you are giving up in this post right now is the same way you give up in your life. I will respond and keep sweating and keep going. But it was tense. At some point, I was like, this is like a military school. Like, I did not come for this. My body is not strong enough to do this kind of things. But AYP is community and AYP is family. It's just even thinking about it, it makes me very emotional because if it wasn't for everybody that was there, so the potential in me, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be teaching and my life would probably be so different. They believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. They believed that I could heal even when I had the conviction that this is my condition. It's words like that. It's the community, the hands that came to me, that hugged me, that the eyes that saw me and told me, you are doing so well. I remember my sister Irene, we are still very close. She was like one of my hosts. She had this beautiful smile. And I was just like, I want to smile like that, even with the life that they live. It's not like the best life ever. They're living in like slums and all, but the love they share, this abundance in giving. And I just wanted all that. It's like God took me from Namibia to teach me how to live from a community that I yearn for inside of myself. Because I was also like born in exile, and in exile, this is exactly how we were like before we came in Namibia, because we lived in a community or in the camps where all the kids stayed together, and really some of us didn't know who our parents were, and a lot of them were maybe orphans. Every father was like everybody's daddy. One mama was everybody's mama. Every house you could go and eat. That community came back to me when I was in AYP, and that was actually over 20-something years living in Namibia and missing my childhood community. It was brought back by Africa Yoga Project. There was a lot of that inquiry that made me actually understand who I was and my purpose and what I'm actually doing here. So there was a change of career from doing corporate advertisement before the car accident. And now I was a holistic therapist practitioner. And now here I am doing yoga. And I'm just like, wow. This is a whole lifestyle. It's all here. It's all coming together. So that brought me into the presence of not wanting to miss anything. I want to take it all in. And that kind of pushed me to take whatever it is that Africa Yoga was giving me. The pains, the love, whatever I was picking up. I just told myself, you have this one chance, and a lot of people don't have it. And I also admire Paige so much. I look at this woman, I'm like, all the way from home, and you just doing acrobats and you never went home. What an amazing woman. So I also wanted to share that. I wanted to take everything that Kenya, Nairobi is giving me and bring it back to Namibia. Also, one of the memories I have, we were, I think, in day 7 or day whatever of our training. And I asked Paige a question. When people are in a downward dog, are the heels of the feet touching down or are they high? Because I see some people heels are down, some are up. She looks at me and she said, what do you think? And that just shut me off immediately right there. And I'm the kind of person who wear my emotions on my sleeves. Immediately, there was some work going on. I'm looking at this woman, I'm about to punch her. And then she take a breath and she's looking at me, what do you think? I'm like, I really don't know. It's your course, it's your study, I just don't want to go home and teach people things that are not supposed to be how it's supposed to be. And she kept quiet and just looked at me. And she's like, how do you feel right now? And I started shaking, and I'm like, I'm shaking, I'm sweating. And then the next question was like, who do I remind you of? And my God, I just say my mother, and my whole world crumbled down. She just turned me over to face all these other 70 students in the room and said, this happening here is a story. And all of us here are carrying stories like this. And by that time, Lily, it's like it's like I'm being ripped open. Onions and layers of mask were falling off right there in front of everybody. Unexpected, not ready, but already with my journey of where I'm coming from and the pains I've endured over the past, I was also tired, of hanging on. I just let it go. And it was also time for a break, lunch. So I went to my room, and what followed after that was just throwing up. I was throwing up buckets and buckets of emotions that I've bottled up so much in my body that when I came back, it felt like I had a big hole in my stomach. I remember somebody asking me, like, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel like I have a hole in my stomach. And she said to me, yeah, exactly. You do have a hole because whatever emotion moved out of that area, you have left a void, which we must now fill. So what are we filling this void with? What do you want to eat, for instance? And so I want to eat like watermelons. I couldn't eat anything. Just give me watermelons. If you look at the color of watermelon, it's red. And if you're thinking of chakra, it's big. I was so open to my healing that it was happening. I was just like, wow. And mind you, I'm already a Reiki advanced. I'm just looking at this happening. Wow, people are spending hours and hours of money and years in therapy when you can just do an Africa yoga teacher's training and all your demons come out.
It's hard work. Yes.
It's hard work, but not for those that are ready. When you're ready, it's not really hard. No.
Yeah, when you're open to that moment of change, as you just said, it's like somebody just asked you the question, who do I remind you of? And it just fell out of your whole body. So
Yeah.
it wasn't work to get to that realization, but you were in that mental state of hard work. You were sweating, you were shaking, a lot of what you had been, all the stories, all the narratives, all of those expectations of yourself and others had already started to be stressed. And so I think that kind of created this environment of just finally being able to let go. As you said, you just vomited up emotions and had this empty hole in you. So I wouldn't dismiss all the hard work that it took to get you to that moment where then all of a sudden, like, it took no work at all. It just came out. I get what you mean, though. I get it.
It's like my life I've been getting ready for this moment, and I didn't even know all the things that I've been through were preparing me for this moment. And it was one of the most beautiful moments ever. I don't forget it. It's every day. Like it's from that day to now. The healing is still going on. It made me realize like how much people we carry without even knowing. We are carrying loads and loads of unnecessary bullshit that we need to drop. In the end, deep down inside you, we all just want to stand in a space where somebody is looking at us and seeing us and allowing us to break down if we have to,
I love how you said the healing's not done yet. I love that because it's true. There isn't like just one thing you have to say or one experience you have to have or one more meditation technique to learn before it's just, oh, I'm healed. I'm perfect.
No.
Everything's great. That's hard for people, I think, to also come to terms with the fact that self-growth and growing and expanding or even rooting down into ourselves, it's not something that has an end point. You're not just going to be the best person and the best version of yourself and the happiest everything like at one point. You just have to keep on the path. And just one foot in front of the other. Let's keep getting better. Let's keep going.
Yes. Let's admit we're scared. Let's admit we are feeling what we're feeling. Let's admit what we are feeling. Don't run away from where you are. Like, don't
No.
try to change you feeling blue for people around you to feel okay. If you're feeling blue right now, see, I'm blue, feeling blue right now. Rather than, oh, I'm feeling blue, but like me feeling blue is going to make everybody else around me feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to try to feel a bit pink. No, that's how layers can come. And before you know it, you are not living your original self. So this place allowed me to be my original self. And it was the first time I ever felt seen and heard and recognized. Or it was also the first time I feel like I saw myself. Yes, I am.
I'm so can relate to what you are talking about. And it's the biggest gift to be able to see yourself as you really are, just free of all of those quote unquote, as the parable goes, the dirt on the mirror, all that dirt's caked on, and we just gently cleaning a little bit to see ourselves clearly. And it's not a linear path, as we mentioned, but it is a beautiful one and an important one. And I'm glad we're talking about it. And I hope our listeners really are just feeling that connection of, yes, I want to see myself a little clearer, or yes, I want to drop some of those narratives and allow myself to just be, like, thrive, flourish, grow, all of it.
Yeah, also the notion of being a perfect nobody. Like, nobody wants to be nothing. Like, for the first time, I was like, yeah, wow, I don't need the titles. Finally, it all made sense to me. Even as I was in the temple, like, I'm a mother of two, I had issues with the law of detachment. And I couldn't understand the devotees, how they leave their homes for so many years and devote themselves to the service of Krishna and to stay there. I was like, how? I love home so much. I'm going home every third month because I miss my babies. I feel attachment to my mother, like I'm my mother's only daughter. I had all these attachment issues. And for the first time, I could detach. Really, it doesn't mean like I don't love them or I'm not thinking about them. But like I realized I could connect from a place of non-physical and in the vibration. And that's where we really all are. And this is the lesson that I teach my children every day, is to know that they are vibrational and we are not detached. Like I'll call my son and he'll be like, how did you know? I'm like, because I'm your mother. I know, because I can feel you in my belly. I could feel something was off yesterday. So I knew today I need to call you. So learning those things and me actually embodying the experience. It's not just like reading it from the books anymore. It was really happening to me. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to experience a day like that with anyone.
You're right. Absolutely. So, Gergentia, I would also love to ask you, what is your personal definition of yoga?
Coming together. Yoga is life itself. Yoga and all the 8 limbs. It's us coming together, knowing who we are. Breathing is you connecting to the whole life cosmos blowing around us. It's so powerful, not being in a rush and one with nature. Like the whole practice, it doesn't matter like which part of it you come through. Like I started with meditation, and in the meditation, I wanted to see what everybody was seeing, for instance. Then I realized I don't even meditate like everybody meditates. If I try to meditate like the monks, I don't think I was really in meditation. These days where I'm at, where I've destructured my religious beliefs and trying to be more and more light of identity, just being perfectly me or imperfectly nobody. I know now, even all the rules set out there in the books, it's you can read it, but you have to embody the practice. So for me, it's like yoga is like a whole life explained in one, whether you're explaining one part of it or the other. Yoga is life, but life is for the living. You have to live it. So you cannot just understand it unless you are living some part of your yoga practice.
Yes.
So that's what I feel it is.
I love
It's
that.
life.
Yoga is life itself. That's perfect. And so, Gergentia, also, I would love to hear more about yoga in Namibia. Is it really popular now? Is it just starting to gain some awareness? Could you share with me and our listeners a little bit more about yoga in Namibia?
Yeah, a really small populated country. It's like we are 2.4 million. It's a big land, but like small population. So yoga, let's say 10 years ago, was not even a thing. When I was started, people called me crazy when I went vegetarian. But today, just like the mainstream on the internet, it is all over. It is coming up, new ages, all practicing some form of yoga. It's not so big. In the capital at the moment, we have a couple of yoga teachers practicing different modalities of yoga, but it's not popular. It's not popular yet. Like, for instance, I teach at all the Virgin Active clubs. And when I came in there, I had such a big, deep desire to share my yoga practice and also to make a living. And I needed something stable. So I went into this Virgin Active just hoping like they would take me on. And I called them while I was in a different region. And I told them, I want to do an interview on yoga, and say, come in tomorrow. I'm like, no, you can't call me tomorrow. I am 800 miles away. Monday. Like, how do you call for interview if you're not here? Because I believe. And then I came in and then I got a job. And they're like, start, here's the schedule, see where. I couldn't see myself anyway. But guess what? On a Friday, there were no classes because apparently Fridays, nobody come to the gym in the evenings. And then on a Sunday, there were no classes. So for me, I was like, there are my days. So the group exercise manager looked at me, nobody comes on a Friday and a Sunday to the gym for classes. I'm like, put it on, yogis will come. And that was before Corona. You see these like yoga mats popping up, 30 people plus walking in the yoga class. Just like that. It was a big surprise. So I also didn't know. So I have quite a good follower. And now I also teach at one more studio, just yoga studio. So we are just getting there. But there's a lot of information that still need to come.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Constantly trying to teach, not just the asanas, but the principles of yoga, especially because I understand that you have to embody yourself in the practice. If you know what you can do, because your body don't even have limitation, you will not yoga like me. So there's a lot of that information that needs to go, and there's a lot of skepticism about it being religious and blah, 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 blah. So I try to stand in between those bridges without actually being religious about it.
I think a lot more people did come to yoga during the pandemic because there was less options. You had to figure out things you could do at home and ways that you could still move your body. And so, Gergentia, also some of our listeners might not just be very familiar with your country. Could you tell them a little bit more about what Namibia is known for, or like why someone would come and see some of your natural wonders?
Everybody should come to Namibia. Why? Number one, it's one of the most least dense countries in the world. And Namibia is also a home to the oldest desert in the world. They say the Namib Desert been around for 55 million years. Namibia, we speak about 30 languages and 11 are all native. English is our national language. Portuguese is also widely spoken because Angola is just next door. and it was also a Portuguese colony. And also Namibia have one of the most indigenous tribes, the Himbas. I don't know if you have heard about the Himbas. They live in the mountains. They practice everything still traditional. They still worship their traditional gods. They even, when they have to meet the father and the mother, they go and find a song, and that song they sing together to call the baby. It's just beautiful. Also, Namibia have a large population of free roaming cheetahs in the world. We have places where you can chill with the wild animals.
Ooh, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing more about that. And it just sounds so unique, so many gorgeous things to experience and witness. Yeah. And as you said, with such a small population, there's so much open space.
It's one of the world where you have also like the ocean and the desert and a road between. You can drive on the scattered coast, and they don't crush. They don't. The ocean don't go in the desert. Don't go in the ocean. It's if you wanna understand yourself, you need a retreat. I feel like the next big yoga retreat should be in the Namib Desert. So that's my thing. I'm putting it out there. So any yoga teachers wanting to come together in this creation with me, let's do it. It's a big dream for me. Yes.
So if somebody did want to reach out to you and get in touch, what's a good way to do that?
The best way, I don't have a website, is to find me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm running this project called Oshana Yoga Project. It's a project that takes yoga to less advantaged people, like kids in the slums and the youth, rural communities. And you can also find me on my personal page. That's Gergentia Shoombe on Facebook, or on Instagram as Holistic Yogini.
Yeah, I'll link all of those in the show notes as well as on my website, wildyogatribe.com. So if any of our listeners just want to click quickly and connect with you, Gergentia, they can do that there. But thanks so much for sharing. And thank you so much for being with me today on the show. It has just been such a true joy to be with you.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you for this opportunity to share my experience with yoga with you and your audience.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. My conversation with Gergentia Shoombe, a yoga teacher from Namibia, was so astounding as we took a deep look at the power of the body and the spirit to heal. I hope that this conversation gave you a glimpse into how everything can come together even as it falls apart. Thank you for listening to the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. Be well. Thank you for the gift of your attention today. If you feel called, please share this episode with someone who you think could benefit from it. Leaving a review would also be so appreciated. I also hope you can join me online on my website, wildyogatribe.com, or on social media. I would love to get to know you better. I would love to share with you and to hear your thoughts. Send me a DM, send me a note, get in touch. It would be great to hear from you. And as always, be well, dear one, be well.